All right, folks, we are now recording the meeting. Welcome to the May meeting of the Parks, Recreation, Waterfront, and Resiliency Committee. I am your host for the evening, your Zoom host, not the chair of the committee. I will be muting people who have their open mics. Somebody currently does. We're going to go through some Zoom protocols first. First thing we ask is that all public members, so if you're not a community board member, if you're a member of the public, or if you are a community board member who's not on this committee, if you can sign in to the chat for attendance purposes. We use the chat for attendance only and for technical issues. So the chat is set only to come to myself as the host. We try to avoid having secondary conversations going on in the chat. So for now, we ask you to just put your name or and any affiliation, if you are affiliated with an organization or community group, into the chat for attendance purposes while the meeting is going on. If you have some technical issues or technical questions, put that in the chat as well, and I will try to help you as best I can. And we ask that everyone keep their microphone muted through the meeting so that there's no disturbances. I will mute microphones as needed. We ask you not to interrupt during the meeting as well, to let the chair, Trevor Holland, lead the meeting. The way the meeting gets led typically is that there will be a presentation on the agenda item by whatever agency it's relevant to or person that it's relevant to. The chair will then ask for questions and comments from community board members first, those who are on the committee, and then those who are not on the committee. And then he will open it up to the public for questions or comments. Public, you are limited to 2 minutes for your comment and question. We typically use a timer for that at the chair's discretion. Sometimes we don't. So just be aware of that. We ask you that you keep your question or comment relevant to what has been presented and not try to backtrack onto something from 3 meetings ago or some new agenda item that we cannot discuss. Some Zoom functionality, we do use the raise hands feature when we do the question and answer session. To find the raise hand feature, if you just go to the bar at the bottom of your screen, the toolbar, and go to the participants tab, you will see the raise hand feature there. So we ask that you use that during the question and answer session. And while we are sharing the screen, as we are right now with tonight's agenda, if you prefer to see more faces rather than the screen being held up with the slides or whatever's being shared, you can change that in the top right-hand corner, I believe, of your screen. You can change the settings there so that you can swap the share screen view with the video view so that you can see people who are in the meeting instead. If you are joining us on the phone, it is *9 to raise your hand and *6 to mute and unmute yourself. Those of you who are on a computer, obviously those controls are at the bottom of the toolbar. I believe that is it, Trevor, so I will turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you, Michael. That was a good summary to start this meeting, and also thank you for facilitating this meeting. And thanks to Ryan, who is also taking minutes for the meeting, and Kay Webster, who is the vice chair for this particular committee. And also to all the committee members who attend and participate in this monthly meeting. We're going to move around the agenda just a bit, but the first thing we're going to do is ask if there are any comments or questions about the minutes, because otherwise they're deemed approved, and that will also be the way we take attendance for the committee. So are there any objections or any corrections for the minutes? Minutes are deemed approved. Ryan, can you take attendance, please?
Trevor Holland?
Yes.
Kay Webster?
Yes.
Ryan Gillum? Yes. David Adams?
Yes.
Ron Altman?
Yes.
Carlin Chan?
Yes.
Athena Jones?
Did you say
Valentina?
Van?
Yes, that was a yes, Valentina.
Yes.
Michael Marino,
Yes.
Robin Chattel, Josephine Velez,
Yes.
Troy Velez.
He's not on.
Okay, we're good.
Trevor, I muted.
First,
Sorry.
yeah, first up, we have a request to speak in public session. Keep in mind that public session is limited to 2 minutes with some questions from committee members. So if Michael, you want to cue the clock and Kara from Plus Pool is going to give a quick update.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kara Meyer. For those of you whom I haven't met, I'm the managing director at Friends of Plus Pool. And for those of you who don't know about our project or missed our presentation at Community Board 3 meeting in 2019 now, I believe. Plus Pool is a water filtering floating swimming pool that creates a safe swimming space while cleaning 1 million gallons of water a day in the process. And we offer community programs, including learn to swim lessons and school education, environmental education programs, and other programs that raise awareness of the issues affecting water quality and that promotes water stewardship. And we're about a 5-year-old organization, but we plan to expand those programs a lot. We've been advocating for access to the river for more than 10 years. Even before we had the nonprofit organization, and we just received from NYCEDC, who released an RFEI for an East River swimming facility in 2019. We received a notice to proceed with due diligence in the Two Bridges neighborhood of Lower Manhattan, just north of the Manhattan Bridge, between the bridge and Pier 35. So we're super excited about this news, and we hope to work with you guys on next steps. The notice to proceed with due diligence really just means that we are able to do site-specific work in the area and understand the complete feasibility of this project and work with the city and the many agencies to understand how something like this could come to fruition at the site. And we're a small nonprofit with a big idea. We're not a big developer with a lot of money or contacts or power. So we really rely on the support and demand of the community to bring this to the neighborhood. And that's
All right, if you could wrap up, you're over your 2 minutes.
Yeah, okay, that's all.
Okay, thanks.
I know there's been some stuff online, so I'm also here for questions anytime.
Yeah. We're going to do questions a little differently. Just keep in mind that this is likely going to be on our June agenda as a full item. I know there was an announcement made this week, so it helps to come to speak to let people know. I remember you were back here in 2019 and a number of community meetings. So we're going to just have a few questions from community members, and with the understanding that this will be an agenda item in June. So I think I saw, as the chair, it is difficult for me to see the raised hands because I have like 4 windows, but I think I saw Val first. Val?
Yes, I heard about this today, and one of the things that was said was that it was fully funded. So I wanted to know, is it funded? Because that's what the word was today when I was told this in front of a whole bunch of people.
It is definitely not fully funded. The city is not providing any money with the RFEI request. We are privately fundraising for the project, and we have been for a long time. Each phase and each scope of work that's been needed to do, we've done it all privately up until this point, and we will have to raise a large amount of money to be able to realize this as well.
All right, good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take a couple more questions if there are any more committee members, and then I just have 1 or 2.
There are no other hands up, Trevor.
Just one question, because the last we heard from this is from a CB3 perspective is in 2019. EDC released that REF-EI, and my understanding is that when that was released, EDC had given you a particular site, and that it was chosen from about 15 different sites.
So yes, Plus Pool, we did a site feasibility study when we first started working on the project.
You're muted, Kara.
Sorry. We did a site feasibility study when we first started working on the project and realized it was feasible, and identified technically feasible sites for Plus Pool, the currents, the depths, all of that. We identified about 15 and gave them to the city of New York. And then in 2019, this came out. So I can't speak for EDC, of course, but this idea I do believe was spurred by us and has been, the site was selected by EDC.
Okay. Okay, Val, let's wrap it up with your last question. Go ahead.
Just, so it's EDC, and what's the name of your organization?
Friends of Plus Pool.
Friends of?
Plus Pool.
Plus Pool, okay. And maybe if you can put your information in the chat, because I'm with a group, Power Partnership, and if you need, we would be glad to like write a letter in support, look up a couple of facts, some references, and write something. And I know some other people that have advocated for pools previously, and I think another group that I know of, they would be very willing to advocate for this. Thank you.
That would be wonderful. Thanks. I can't seem to share in the chat with everyone, but I'll send to Manhattan Community Board 3 and it can be shared.
Yeah, just send it to me, and then do you want me? I can send it out to everyone, or I can just send it to Val. What do you want me to do?
Either way,
Okay.
Whoever wants it can have it.
Right.
We're here and ready to talk to anyone who's interested.
And as I mentioned before, we're going to try and put this on the June calendar for full discussion. I will say that in 2019 and probably before that, when I first heard about this, I thought this was, well, a pool in the East River, for lack of better funding, but it seems to be happening. So we'll discuss it more in June. But thank you, Kara.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Next up, Jamal is going to give a update. And Jamal, if you could introduce yourself. Jamil.
Hi, good evening, everybody. So the update for District 3 for parks, so we've just received 10 new additional staff from the seasonal budget that we've been utilizing. We've been fixed posting them and helping us clean up the district with some of the areas that are very problematic at Sarah D, at Tompkins, at East River. So it's been a great help to have the new addition of staff. Which also helped us we did a 5-person hort group. They're working on the Tompkins side of District 3 now. They're working their way over towards Corliss Hook, but we're attempting to really clean up a lot of the hort areas and a lot of the parks. They're going around, they're cleaning up and addressing and removing dead branches, hanging branches, and we're trying to coordinate with community groups to do volunteer projects. We also received a new graffiti machine for District 3 also. We just got it recently approved, so it should be in the next 2 weeks. That's one of our probably most problematic issues we have is as soon as we clean up graffiti, it comes back the next day or the day after. So it's very difficult because we only have one machine and one machine gets utilized by the whole borough. So now we have one machine dedicated for District 3, which helps us out greatly. Our district issues are typical. We're still dealing with illegal dumping, graffiti, and heavy drug use. Can I go into my budget update also?
Yeah, let's do that so we can get the questions afterwards. Go ahead.
All right, so the parks is in good shape. We're restoring their seasonal budget. We were able to hire seasonal staff for pools, tennis courts, and ball field maintenance, which District 3 so far it received 10 people. And with that, we're going to probably get a larger complement of staff through the mayor's cleanup corps, which the borough is supposed to get 250 additional staff, and this staff is all the way to the end of the year. We'll be utilizing them to go to pools. We have 3 pools that are going to open up in District 3, Hamfish, Dry Dock, and Tompkins Mini Pool. We're going to have staff that once the pool season ends, they go to the district to help out to the end of the year also. That's my update.
All right. For those, okay, I see Michael has a question. Committee members, if you have any questions, please raise your hand. Go ahead, Michael.
Sure. Jamil, you probably know what I'm going to ask about, but as these projects get underway and staff thankfully start getting added for maintenance, what is the plan for regular mowing of lawns? Because there are lawn parks already that are over a foot tall.
I know we're having an issue right now with East River regarding equipment being serviced. We should get some of the equipment back, hopefully back Monday or Tuesday. But what we're going to try to do is, one of the things with the seasonal budget is utilize the staff to have a dedicated cutting crew. That's just all they do is they cut grass all summer long. They'll be dealing with weed whacking and cutting, which I think that would help us out. Because the problem with District 3, we pull staff constantly to do different projects in District 3. But with the extra staff, we're just going to dedicate them for cutting. Hopefully Monday or Tuesday, we'll get this equipment back and we'll address the needs of the district with the overgrown grass.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask a quick question and then I'll go to Val. You mentioned you have the cleanup staff from the mayor's initiative. How many for our district?
So far we got 10. So the total for the borough is supposed to be 250. We're still in the process of hiring some. I'm even on a panel, like I asked before, if anyone has a friend who's looking for a job, it goes all the way to the end of the year. If they have a driver's license, even better. But we're looking to hire anyone who's looking to work.
I'll pass that word. Val.
Yeah, my question is, what are they doing about the drug usage? You know, who are you partnering with for the drug usage?
So I know for next Wednesday, I know Kay is aware of this. We're going to do a walkthrough with PD. PEP has been fully aware issuing tickets. It's
PD is what?
Police department.
Oh, okay.
Of enforcement. I mean, I think the issue is Sarah D is very problematic. We have a serious heroin problem, and other drugs, possibly K2, that is very fluid throughout the park. We've been working with PEP and PD to just do regular walkthroughs to address the areas that are very, very impacted by the drugs.
And when you say you do, okay, so you go on with the police department to do walkthroughs, and this is heroin and K2.
And Sarah D, that's probably one of the most biggest things we have going on over there. It's extremely bad.
Have you thought about reaching out to something other than the police department?
You know, I could say something about this, Val, because it was our coalition who asked the police and Jamal to come to walk through, so I can say more about that later.
But no, my question isn't about a walkthrough. My question is, have you thought about other than the police department? You know, drugs, you know, I'm just saying, I think that's one thing to think about, something other than the police department, because there's a certain way that most addicts respond to the police department, and there's a certain way that they think about the police department. So I'm just saying, you know, if you want to take care of drugs, I think there's other ways to do it other than the police.
So I do need to say something here, Val, that this was requested by our safety VP and Sarah D, who is kind of the godfather of most of the homeless guys in this park. And the request was made specifically to ask the precinct to get to know the homeless people who take care of our park, so that there's no misunderstanding about who's here. It was actually instituted so that we could protect our people who help us out. So, we do have a good relationship with the PD in the 5th precinct, and
Listen, my whole thing here with Jamel, I'm saying this to Jamel, that one of the things to think about, you said drug addicts, you said people on drugs, that there are other ways to deal with people on drugs. That's all I'm saying, that there are other agencies that might know how to deal with people on drugs. Because I've seen other parks get cleaned up in a very different way, and it wasn't the police department that cleaned it up. Thank you.
Okay, I hear you, Val. I understand.
If I can add on to that, I know the Lower East Side.
I'm sorry. I don't know who's speaking.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Layla.
Yeah, we have to go by when the chair recognizes somebody to speak. So right now we're just doing questions and comments from other board members.
Oh, I understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Kay, you have your hand raised.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to thank Jamel for responding and for agreeing to do this walkthrough. And yeah, that's mostly it. And also for the extra, oh, I know. So New Yorkers for Parks has been asking for more funding for the Parks Department, specifically staffing, which we tend to agree with. Do you have recommendations in terms of your own staff needs?
So what I would like to do is have staff in the evening hours at certain parks, because I think with the heavy use and the weather improving, it would be ideal, especially parks like Sarah D, Tompkins, I would say Al Smith, I would say Seward, parks that get seriously heavily used, or even the ones who have fixed post sites to have an evening tour would help us either cleaning up the park and maintaining it better, and also like picking up garbage late at night would also minimize the rat numbers that in District 3 always seem to be so high.
Thank you. And we have one last question from a board member, and we're going to wrap this up and go on to the next topic. Lee Berman.
Hi, thank you. This question is specifically about East River Park and amphitheater. There's been a chronic problem in the amphitheater of DJs or a DJ setting up Saturdays and Sundays in warm weather, and sometimes even during the week with non-permitted amplified music, sometimes going on from 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon until well after midnight. This has been called into 311, called into Parks and PEP and the precinct repeatedly over the years, and yet this nuisance still continues. And I'd like to know what, if anything, Parks can do, is planning to do to address this right before the park is used more and more because of warmer weather. Thank you.
So we recently was speaking to PEP regarding changing their hours. So now we're going to a later tour. They're going to assist with addressing the issues, because I received quite a few complaints regarding the amphitheater and the DJing and things like that. We had an issue last weekend, example at Tompkins. We had a group there late at night. So the problem we have right now, our PEP unit gets off, I would say about 8 o'clock. We're looking for them to go later to assist with the later issues that are happening throughout the district.
All right, thank you.
But PEP is looped in.
Go ahead, Jamel.
No, I said PEP is looped into what's going on. They deal more with the enforcement part, but I'm making sure I speak to them every day about the issues that go on in District 3.
Thank you, Jamel. Is your partner here to talk about programming?
Sandy, are you on?
Yes, I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Sandy. I'm Recano. I manage the sports program. I'm a sports coordinator for recreation for Manhattan. So for District 3, we will be doing programming out in recreation in some sites, such as Columbus Park, Stewart Playground, Soul Lane, Little Flower, Tompkins Square Park. We'll be having seasonal staff providing recreational activities to the community. They are supplied with sports equipment, arts and craft, supplies, board games. We also will be having a Playmobile, which is a van that carries a lot of several recreation equipment as well. They will be doing pop-up events in some of the playgrounds as well. The first pop-up event that they'll go to is Little Flower on May 27th. And at the moment, we're still trying to get more staff in. We're still in the hiring process. We're not where we want to be, but we're getting there. Right now, we do have somebody at Tompkins Square Park, Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 6. And we'll be soon placing someone at Seward Park as well. They'll be starting next week on Tuesday. Movies are also going to be coming back as well. We are recently starting. We thought that the funding was not going to get there, but everything got approved. Our first, let me see, May 28th, I believe is going to be our first movie that's going to be showing at Lillian D. Wald Playground. They'll be showing Dirty Dancing and then there'll be more movies coming out as well throughout June and July, all the way till August. So for now, this is what we have. We also will be having summer camp starting at one of our recreation centers, which is Alfred E. Smith. And hopefully we'll be having at least, in that area, more seasonal staff providing recreation activities, which they'll be going all the way till the end of December.
Thank you, Sandy. Michael, I just want to ask one question. Is this for, what area do you represent?
I work for Manhattan Recreation.
All right, so this is all of Manhattan, but you're talking about programming in our particular area, correct?
Yeah, just in District 3, correct.
Is there a way to find this out online?
I believe, well, we're going to be placing flyers up in all the locations that we're going to be doing programming in. We just got the flyers approved, so next week they're going to be out. But I believe if you go to our parks website, there should be able to find, it's under the Kids in Motion umbrella, or CPI, which is Community Parks Initiative. And it should be listed there. It might have been a delay just because, all the funding hasn't, we just recently got the funding and not all our staff are out there. Our staff are out there. We're still trying to get everybody in.
Sandy, one last thing before I go to Michael. Can you drop your info to give to Michael? I have some questions, but I'm going to take them offline. If you can just drop your information in the chat. Sure. It only goes to the CB3. Sure. Michael, go ahead.
Sure. Okay. So Sandy, I'm excited to hear that the Playmobiles are coming back. I have a question about access to them. I know, I guess last month there was, meetings with some of the Friends of groups and whatnot, where we were basically told that we probably wouldn't be able to request the Playmobiles or the Puppet Mobile or the Recreation Mobile or whatever for any of our events this year. And I know things are changing constantly, and things changed rather drastically today as far as COVID protocols are concerned. So will those amenities be something available to community groups again, or is it just going to be parks using them this summer?
So at the moment, because we haven't received any requests and we didn't know that it was going to be available, most of the locations that we're providing, the Playmobil is locations that we have chosen and for the next 3 months at the moment. But if you do have any recommendations that you do want some, for the Playmobil to go around certain sections or certain days and times, then you could always, send me an email and hopefully we're able to work around that.
Okay. So in the past, community groups usually went to the park's website and applied for the Playmobil to come to their event. Is that portal going to reopen, or do they just have to organize that directly with you?
I think for this year, it would have to be just with me. It's not going to be open this year for now. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Trevor, you're muted.
Thank you. Susan, you have a question?
Yeah, I would like to put all these parks events on our website. They sound really great. So Jamil, could you work with me to get me all that information?
No problem, Susan. I'll forward you the information from Recreation to the CD3 website.
Super, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Michael, can you put up the agenda?
Sure.
All right, so we're going to move a couple of things around. We're going to do the tree task force update first, since I believe that's a 5 to 10 minute presentation.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Haley Hicks, and I'm with NYC Parks Forestry. And I just wanted to share a couple of quick updates about tree planting and other greening initiatives in Community Board 3. So first, for tree planting, we recently planted our 500th tree, which marked our halfway point to fulfilling the 1,000 tree commitment. So we have now planted a total of 545 trees. 427 of those are in Community Board 3. For tree planting this fall, we are projecting about 400 street trees, a little over 400, to be planted in Community Board 3. And we're hoping to hit, if not this fall, then next spring, we're hoping to hit the 1,000 tree street tree commitment. So since we've been getting so many tree planting requests from the community, I wanted to add a quick update about surveying for tree planting locations. We started surveying a couple of months ago in CB3 in its entirety, starting at FDR and going west from there, block by block. And we are planting every site that is viable for planting. So there are, of course, many sites that are unplantable due to infrastructure conflicts. And I'm working on developing a map for those sites that I've voided so that the community can easily reference voided locations. I have a quick green infrastructure update for rain gardens and green streets that will be installed in Community Board 3. So our Parks, Natural Resources, Capital Design and Construction team is developing compact bioswale details for use on the sidewalks. And they're also identifying high stormwater volumes at existing paint-out areas in the streets close to East River Park. And the next step will be for us to review those potential sites with DOT and then conduct soil borings to confirm viability. So once we have that information, we plan to come back to the task force with a list of viable sites before proceeding with site-specific design. And then last but not least, I have a stewardship update. So last fall, in October, we held a bulb planting event in the Lower East Side on Henry Street. We did just a cleanup of the tree beds there. We did mulching and planted perennials in about 15 tree beds along Henry Street. And that was a really successful event. So I'd like to keep doing that every season. Our next event is going to be on Sunday, June 13th. So it's a couple of weeks from now. And we'll be meeting at East 3rd Street and Avenue C. And we plan on weeding, mulching, and planting perennials on East 3rd Street and East 4th Street between Avenue C and D. And that information is on the NYC Park Stewardship website if you would like to sign up to volunteer. And of course, you can also email me. That's all I have, Trevor.
Thank you. I see you, Josie. I'm just going to ask a quick question. Just number one, that map is a good tool. And I know we talked about this before because you probably get a lot of requests for areas over and over again where people don't understand why there's no tree in a particular section. And the rain gardens, is that under a separate budget? And if so, what's the budget for that?
That is under a separate budget. I don't know the specific amount dedicated towards that project. Do you mind if I get back to you?
Yeah, that's fine. Just get back to me on that. Those are my questions for now. Josie? I know.
Hi, Haley. We have been emailing back and forth since last year, if you remember, regarding Montgomery Street.
Right.
Gouverneur Gardens, and you had mentioned that you were going to do some planting and you were looking at our neighborhood, but nothing was ever done. So And then we had that other meeting. You remember the separate meeting that you said to get a group together? I have a group. I sent you that I had about 5 people. Anyway, I haven't heard anything from that. So I'm hearing that you're going to be planting again, but on 3rd Street. So what happened to Montgomery?
Oh, sorry. So let me clarify something. The East 3rd Street, that is just, sorry about my cat. That is just perennials that we're planting in the tree beds.
Okay.
So tree planting, we are planning to plant those sites that you sent me this fall.
Okay. So I was speaking with Frank, you know, Frank Avila Goldman. Frank, hi, he's right here. Anyway, and so I was taking pictures of some of the empty tree areas. So I was going to send them to you, but it's been raining, it's been cold, so I haven't really, you know, got them all together. I do have some. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to email you, or, you know, with Frank along with him. And so we will email these to you, because there are a lot of empty beds on Montgomery Street, so many. It looks ugly, really. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Josie. I have already surveyed Montgomery and I've put in a lot of work orders on that street, but please do send them anyway, just so I can confirm that I didn't miss any sites.
I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Trevor, you're muted again.
I'm trying to follow protocol so you don't hear background noise. Wendy?
Hi, Haley. How are you doing? Cute cat. You know, you mentioned the bioswale project, and you know that there's already been so much research done in the East Village on locations here. And I gave you Charles Crizel's contact number. Do you think that these parties can take advantage of the work already done? I know boring tests are very expensive. He says they haven't contacted him yet.
Yes, I completely agree. Matthew Donham, the director, actually just reached out to me yesterday saying he was going to follow up with Charles with lungs and get in touch with him about the boring tests. So really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, do you see any other hands?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Haley, we'd like updates, but we don't want to bring you back to go over the same information. So when do you think would be a good time for another update? And if it's months from now, that's fine, but we're just trying to keep this regular.
I would say probably around August when I have an exact number for fall planting.
Okay, I'm not sure if we're meeting in August, and if we don't, we'll see you in September, but let's shoot for August for now. All right, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Hi, Haley.
All right, thanks. Next up, our monthly, well, we skipped 1 month, and that seemed to be a little troublesome, but next up, our monthly update from DDC. Well, from the DDC team. Do you need to share your screen?
She's all set up already.
Okay.
Yep, so let me just get that going. Okay, I'm hopefully sharing the presentation. Okay, good. Never can quite be sure. Okay, so welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. Again, my name is Desiree Gazzo. I'm from the HNTB Lero team. We're the program management, construction management team working for New York City DDC. I'm joined here tonight by my colleagues at HNTB Lero and DDC, and we're here to present on the Eastside Coastal Resiliency project. And this should not say pre-construction, it should say construction, because we are very much in construction, but I guess for PA1, it's pre-construction. So the highlights for the presentation today, and I think it will be a fairly quick one, is the overview of contracts. We'll give a quick Section 3 MWBE community engagement update, and then the what we've heard section. Again, I think everyone is familiar with this slide, the different project areas, For the overview of contracts, we actually have Jeff Margulies from DDC who's going to give the update on Project Area 1. Jeff, are you available?
I'm here. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Good evening, everyone. So as it notes, the pre-award process for the apparent low bidder continues. We did have a bit of a hiccup. The second lowest bidder has filed a lawsuit against the first lowest bidder challenging their bid. We are allowed to continue the procurement process until told otherwise. And we're very confident that we followed all the procurement rules and regulations throughout this entire process. What we've told the Parks Department is we work together to continue to issue field permits until the end of August, as well as keeping East River Park open until that date. And we'll continue to discuss and keep you guys informed as we get closer.
Great, thank you, Jeff.
Sure.
For Project Area 2, as everyone is aware, we are in construction in the area of Astor-Levy Playground and Styco Park near Solar One, and then that the roadwork area in between and Avenue C under the FDR. And then parallel conveyance, we should be expecting the bid advertisement in the coming weeks. So a bit of a progress update on PA2. We have completed the decorative construction fencing mesh for phase 1 of PA2, and I have a couple of photos and we'll show you that in just a bit. The daytime pile installation adjacent to Solar One in Styco Park and Astor-Levy Playground continues. And starting the week around, again, when we give dates, they are, an estimate. Starting the week of May 24th, we will begin the daytime pile driving or pile installation under the FDR drive at East 23rd Street, that intersection there. And again, that will be within the kind of construction zones. So if you have gone down there, and I think we have a slide coming up, we've been doing the traffic shifts there, and that will be within kind of those construction zones. For anticipated activities, we are going to kind of revamp this slide for the next meeting, and as we move into PA1, so it's a little bit easier to read, but I did want to keep it in just in case anyone wants to go back after the meeting to our website to take a closer look at some of the progress of some of the items here. It reviews the general stages of the construction for this area and kind of where we are in this upcoming month. So again, this is the traffic pattern shift that I just discussed briefly at that intersection of East 23rd. So that will occur next week. And then the work kind of happens in this kind of construction area here. So again, when we say the pile installation will start to occur at this intersection, it will happen kind of in those construction areas, and there are several of them. And again, the detours that are happening here are in coordination with our sister agency at DOT. And please, again, if anyone's going through here, it is a complex intersection, and please, follow the traffic enforcement agents and flaggers. So the daytime pile installation, again, is happening here at Astor-Levy, if you could see my cursor, and near the Solar One building in Stuyvesant Cove Park. And then it will be starting here at the East 23rd Street, or just south of the East 23rd Street intersection under the FDR, approximately the week of March 24th. Again, we issue the advisories with when we think the earliest date will be, and then sometimes it shifts a week or so. So a few site photos. This is the H pile installation at the north end of Stuyvesant Cove Park. Again, this is one of the 3 types of piles that are being installed. I think I went over that the last time we were here. And then this is at Astor-Levy Park, and these are the sheet piles. And again, these are kind of the vibrated installation. And then the H piles are partial vibration and then partial kind of impact install. And then moving on to the Section 3 MWBE and community engagement section. On April 29th, we did have the first of our quarterly ESCR Section 3 and MWBE information sessions. I think a couple of people on the call now attended, so thank you for coming. Again, this will be the first of many that we will look to do. The recording is available online. We have the website here. And for those requiring translations, YouTube does have a translate button, and we will be putting up instructions on how to view the presentation in multi-languages. And then we will also, before the next one, confirm that everything is being translated accordingly, and then perhaps put up a transcript that again can be translated word for word, that will be translated word for word in Spanish and Chinese. So we are looking into our different translation options and seeing which is most effective. So if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. So upcoming, we will be, or DDC, Office of Diversity and Industry Relations, Wayne Lambert, will be featured at an HNTB Partners webinar series. And then for the ESCR team, we will have kind of ongoing smaller outreach events for Section 3 and MWBE. We do have several open positions. They were emailed to the community boards, to the CAG. They were emailed, the link to the Work With Us page was emailed through the inquiry tool. So if you have not heard this news, and maybe it's because you haven't been signed up to receive project notifications, so please reach out. You could reach out to us, you could reach out, I'm assuming, Trevor, to the community boards if they need any help with anything, because we want to make sure that everyone is getting the information. Again, there's a couple of job and contracting opportunities. It has also been distributed through our workforce community partners. So they are aware as well. And then we have an online portal for collecting resumes. And there's a kind of a photo of it here. So if you do have a resume and the job descriptions are here, please do submit and reach out should you have any questions. And then this is the first phase of the decorative informational construction fencing mesh. If you haven't been able to get down, please do. It is, again, both informational. It talks about resiliency, what is the flood wall, and then also wayfinding and directional, noting, Stuycove Park and just Astor Levy Playground, etc. This is the first installation, so we are, learning as we go along. It does have a QR code that you can snap, and it will bring you to the website if you need more information. And we are putting all of the information on the fencing panels on the website. So if you're not able to go out to the site and you still want to browse through the information that's on them, that will be available there. And again, that is translatable as well. And then we are very excited to announce that tomorrow we will be issuing the first quarterly newsletter for the project. In the future, it will have information on Project Area 1 and parallel conveyance. Right now, it focuses on Project Area 2. It is a little past the first quarter. We understand that. Thank you for bearing with us here. Again, as these are the first newsletters, reports, it is taking a bit longer as far as the review is concerned. Again, similar with the environmental report, which I'll talk about on the next slide. But as we are, again, issuing the first of these firsts, the review period is a bit longer, and then it will become more regular as we move forward. So again, thank you. I know everybody's been looking and asking for more than just the bulletin that we put out on Fridays. So I think this is a bit more comprehensive and explains a little bit more about the why things are happening. And we will build upon this, each quarter and provide more information. For the what we've heard slide, I believe Ben Ireland is here from DSNY to give an update on that.
Hi, so I'm Ben Ireland. I work with the Bureau of Recycling and Sustainability with the Department of Sanitation. And just a little background, DSNY has been tasked with the role of finding an alternate site for the Lower East Side Ecology Center's composting yard while ESCR is taking place. So to that end, we've looked at, I would say, about 100 sites throughout the city at this point. And the site that we have been given jurisdiction to develop a compost site on is a location in Canarsie. It's on the northern border of Canarsie. It's about a 20,000 square foot piece of property that DCAS recently passed jurisdiction over to DSNY for. And right now we're looking at about it would take about until October, more or less, to fully develop the site for the Lower East Side Ecology Center to move on to. Right now, we're in the process of doing an environmental review, as well as a fair share process with our real estate and Bureau of Legal Affairs at DSNY. So that's the status of relocating the processing site for Lower East Side Ecology Center. Obviously, Canarsie is far from the Lower East Side, not ideal, but this is the best location that we've been able to find so far that meets the needs in terms of a processing site. We are looking for an additional supplementary site in Manhattan for compost education, compost demonstration. So we continue to look for another smaller piece of property in Manhattan to locate their education and sort of outreach around composting on, but so far we have not found one, so that is ongoing.
Great, thank you, Ben. Thank you for being here tonight.
No problem, thank you.
So the other item on what we've heard is the funding. I think last time we spoke, and also at the last community advisory group meeting, there were several questions about funding of certain items. So we did take those back, and we have not received a response yet. The city is reviewing those items and the budgeting and funding, etc. And we hope to have a response by the next meeting, or again, should it come earlier, we will provide that to the community board. Jeff, would you like?
Sorry, just to be clear, when we're talking about the funding, we're talking about the additional ULERP commitments, not the overall project. I just want to make that clear.
Yes, yes, sorry. So that was the amphitheater canopy, the flood proofing of the firehouse, and there were one or two other items.
The Murphy Brothers Comfort Station, and now I'm forgetting the last one as well, but yeah.
It was, I think we talked about the flyover bridge the last
flyover bridge, thank you, yes.
So there were a couple of items that we were looking to get back to you on, and those are the items. Thank you, Jeff, for the clarification, and we should have a response hopefully soon. And then again, as mentioned on our last slide, that quarterly report for the environmental is under review. Again, thank you for your patience, as this is the first quarterly report, just like this is the first quarterly newsletter. So it is taking a little bit more time to review, to get that formatting and how we want to put out the information again, so it is understandable to the community on all different levels and all of our stakeholders. So again, thank you, and we hope to issue that shortly. I think that's the last slide, and we can open the floor for questions.
And before we open the floor for questions, who's here from Parks? I was expecting someone to answer.
Trevor,
So there's no, yeah.
I did see somebody on earlier from the mayor's office. I don't know if they're still with us though.
Hi, Manelli's on with the mayor's office.
Okay. But I don't know if you can answer specific questions about the compost yard.
I can try my best.
Okay. All right, I'm going to circle back to that, but first, well, I'm going to let Kay do this because I think Kay has the exact wording that Parks told us at the last meeting, and we wanted Parks and Sanitation here in the same room because everyone's playing ping pong with a particular topic. So I see other hands, but I'm going to go to Kay first.
I think you had the exact wording, Trevor. Yeah, I want to thank DSNY for showing up and talking, letting us know. Obviously, that's so far away. I think we need to hear from the Lower East Side Ecology Center to see if that's a viable location. I don't know how they continue to do their, groundbreaking work to network and show, people what composting means without the yard. But I guess the question I had to Parks was about making a commitment to return the compost yard to the East River Park, which is in our resolution forever, and we can't seem to get a very straight answer. I think at this point it behooves the Parks Department to do the right thing along with this mayor. I'm not sure why we can't seem to get every person who's involved in this project in the room to have a straight answer. So if the mayor's office wants to answer, and if you can't, I don't know what we do because we're supposed to advise on this. I don't know how we can.
Sure, I can jump in. I think, so to be quite honest, this is an issue that I've been working on with you all and with the project team for, I would say, the last 2+ years. And it's not, and when I tell you that it's something that I work on every single day, I promise you that's exactly what's happening. We are still trying to figure out what that path might look like. We're not ready to confirm one way or another just yet, but when I tell you that is being discussed at all levels of City Hall, I'm not kidding you. And I'm hoping to be able to provide an update on that front very shortly. I think, as the mayor had committed, and I think, we've also stood by, we are not going to relocate Lessick until we have a site available for them. Obviously, we're working through the challenges and of getting the work in the park to move forward. So in the meantime, I think their stay in East River Park, is secured, and as soon as I have an update to share, you will all be, some of the first folks to know about it as well.
I think to that question, because honestly, we've heard that exact phrase for quite some time, and we're sort of coming to the end of the process of where, from a community board, of what we can do. So you're saying you think you're coming to a decision on that, so that I can write this down. When I know it's hard to predict, but are we talking a week, 15 days, 30 days, or 45 days?
So, I mean, I was aiming to have this resolved before before May, but it's been a bit of a moving target. The reality is that several rounds of conversations are happening with our principals at the mayor's office to have a full understanding of the challenges with confirming that the composting can return. And obviously there's several conversations, and I know the Department of Sanitation, as well as our colleagues at Parks, have regular meetings with Lessick, as well as our other composting organizations. And when I tell you that it's an issue that I work on every single day, I'm not kidding. But I'm hoping, this summer, this month, June, is really one of the drop dead dates that I'm working with. But But it's a lot of briefings. There's a lot of folks to bring to the table. It's a lot to consider. And the reality is that since, you know, we're still working to keep, you know, and again, we've committed to not moving the composting until absolutely necessary and until we have a relocation identified. You know, I think rest assured that Lessig is safe, you know, until we have a path to move forward with.
And
Trevor,
I can.
could we just ask what those complications are? Because I don't know what they are. I don't understand.
I mean, there are several layers. There's some concerns with composting or the extent of composting in the park. There was a project, I think back in 2017, to reconstruct this area that is no longer funded. Obviously, I think as part of ESCR, we are going to raise this area to bring it out of the flood zone and ensure that it matches the elevation of the rest of the park. But you know, in terms of what does the future of composting look like in East River Park is not a yes or no question, right? There's a yes leads to a lot of other kind of implications and follow-up questions as to what does that mean? What does that look like? What are we what are we committing to? Is that another capital project that we're going to be working on? Et cetera, et cetera. So all of those are kind of part of the discussion and part of the considerations of that question. So it's multi-layered, and that's why it's a multi-deputy mayor and mayor, chief of staffs at all levels in discussion.
Okay, and I'm going to drill down a bit on that. But first, since you're saying that June is your drop dead date, or you'd like for that to be your drop dead date, to come back to the Parks Committee or have someone with information like you have to the Parks Committee for next month to give an update on that.
Yeah,
second,
definitely.
Second, I hear a lot of talk. I'm just trying to decipher some of what you're saying. You're saying that the mayor is committed to putting composting in the park, or that is still a question?
No, I mean, that I think is a question across the city. This is not a East River Park specific question. Mm-hmm. And it is a conversation that is happening at multiple, kind of composting efforts or composting organizations in parks. It's a much larger conversation, and it involves more than just Lower East Side Ecology Center. So no, we are not ready to confirm that the composting can come back. But obviously there's been several rounds of these conversations. I know that our colleagues at DSNY and Parks chat with Christina regularly, as well as, again, all of our other composting organizations and stakeholders. So that's really where we are.
Yeah, I'm trying to separate two things. One is, whether the mayor's office wants composting in park, and the other is the complications related to that. And I know some of them, because if the mayor's office says that they'd like to see composting in parks, honestly, it kind of happens. Who's the mayor? So you're saying the mayor, it hasn't formed an opinion on whether they want composting in the park, regardless of the complications. I'm just asking what the mayor's opinion is.
This is currently, to be quite honest, this is currently being discussed at the staff and at the deputy mayor level. This has not gone to the mayor. I don't have an opinion directly from the mayor at the moment, but I'm sure that once I do, a lot of folks, including, some of the key stakeholders here, and including, a lot of our electeds that have continued to reach out directly to our principals will be the first to know.
Understood. And there was some confusion because at the last meeting, Parks representative said that, a lot of the decisions about whether composting in the park, this particular park, but maybe even citywide, had to do with DSNY. And that's why we asked for DSNY to come on and speak. do you still hold that sort of opinion that it's up to DSNY, or is this from?
So I mean, I think so. I mean, I think the case about it being DSNY maybe where we were a month ago when we were still working towards the budget and confirming that that there was a composting program that was going to be stood up and was going to be funded and kind of like funding re-injected. I think maybe that's where it becomes a DSNY issue. But the reality is that this is a this is a cross agency and multi levels of the mayor's office and our deputy mayors that are involved in this conversation. So it's not a, I can't point fingers to DSNY nor my colleagues at Parks as to the reason why this decision hasn't been made. It's a lot of stakeholders, and a lot of our principals that are being briefed on the issue, and unfortunately, a lot of competing priorities, given everything else that's going on in our city these days. So it's not by the lack of trying. When I tell you that I spend several hours a day on this issue, I am not kidding. But it's a large group of principals that need to be briefed and that we need to bring along to a decision. And the decision has, we don't have a final decision at the moment.
Okay, thank you. I see one last question for the committee. We will also go to the public, but Kay?
Yeah, I guess I do want to say that when these, we're very well aware of the Big U and the compost site in Red Hook, and that Parks looks to be trying to remove these climate regenerative practices at a crucial moment in history when this is probably the last thing a person or a city would want to do. But it strikes me that this wasn't a big deal before these parks got discovered, that these were here for decades, and that suddenly now it's a problem for them to be in parks strikes me as odd timing, to say the least. And the mayor can make a decision, and the commissioner Silver is taking his victory laps now because he's leaving. So, we have been talking about this for, I'll say months, but it's more like years. So I'm not quite understanding in the midst of all the language there what exactly the problem is, but I don't think we're going to be able to get that tonight. But this just keeps happening. I don't know what we're supposed to do. Thank you, Trevor.
I am trying. Well, I'll give her a chance to respond.
No, I appreciate that, and I share your frustration at times. It's a lot. It's a lot of competing priorities. If we're being honest, there's
suddenly competing priorities. You don't need to answer. I'm venting, so
I appreciate that.
Right. And I see 3 questions from the community, and I'm going to go to that. Wendy, I believe, raised your hand first, so prepare to unmute yourself. I just want to, for note-taking purposes, make sure that DDC is aware that we would like to have, Parks and Sanitation at our June meeting to discuss this. Hopefully, we'll have a resolution of some sort, since there seems to be some optimism on the decision-making process. Wendy, go ahead.
Yes. First, I have a couple questions. One is about noise complaints. Have there been any noise complaints related to the pile driving and other work up at the project area 2?
Sure. Thanks, Wendy. We've received I've been aware of 1 or 2, and it was on the day when we hit a different soil type at Asser-Levy. And that is the Sky Cove Park area, the soil type was different than Asser-Levy. And so they hit into some ground that was a little bit more dense than the Sky Cove Park area. And there were, there was one in particular that I was aware of, and I'm not particularly aware of other ones, but we have spoken to folks we regularly speak to residents in Waterside Plaza and Stuytown, and they have not reported noise complaints. So it's been mixed.
All right, thank you.
So that's really, no, I'm not done quite yet, Trevor, sorry. That's really interesting in light of all the discussion around moving the pile driving away from the FDR in Project Area 1. You've only gotten one complaint at the north end. Very interesting. I have another question for you and Jeffrey. Because you were talking about the agreement, that came out of the ULURP and you talked about some of the things that have already begun. And I wondered, number 2 on the list is study the FDR. It's called, the decking over of the FDR. Is that anywhere underway at this point?
Jeff, I'm gonna ask you to respond to that one.
I may actually kick it to Manelli. I don't know if Manelli knows what the latest on that is.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, and we'll have to come back to you. Unfortunately, it was paused during the pandemic, and we were, I believe, in the middle of putting it out to start procurement for the study. And I think that there were a couple of emails recently to restart the process. So we'll be sure to have an update for you in short order.
Okay, I have one more question about that same document under construction. There's number 3 on the list. It says NYC Emergency Management in coordination with the Mayor's Office of Resiliency and DDC. Excuse me, that was the wrong one. There's one, it's further down in the document, and maybe it doesn't fall under construction, but it's about the restart of emergency preparations in the community, involving the community, either through existing groups or through emergency management. Has that happened?
Yeah, I think the council member had requested that OEM do some local outreach, at the building level, for example, in case of an emergency like another Hurricane Sandy.
Yeah, and some of that work, some of the coordination, I think just built off of what emergency management does regularly, and I think we were just planning to enhance what was made available to this particular community. But we'll, again, thank you for bringing this up, and we'll be sure to follow up with our colleagues at emergency management to make sure that we're on task. And if anything, I think it's more of a reoccurring, and I think something that we want to ensure is part of like the regular discourse, when emergency management is out with the communities, and particularly giving focus to here. So we'll check in with emergency management to see what the latest has been and/or what their schedule is for any upcoming.
That would be great. I'm a member of LES Ready, as is Trevor and other members here. I haven't heard a word about this. And I wrote you in 2019 and asked you, because I had just learned at an LES Ready meeting that the repairs going on in NYCHA campuses, we require that the buildings be evacuated before the storm barriers are put in place in the event of a storm. That could happen anytime. We don't have interim flood protection in our part of the neighborhood. Anything could happen anytime. So I really hope that the social surge protection, getting people on board, and it's really important, that you start this already. What are we waiting for?
Thank you, Wendy. Next up, and I'll get to you, Christine, because I think that might take a little longer. I want to give Billy a chance to speak.
Hi, I actually have 3 questions. One is for Jeff Margolis about the bidders. And is it true that there were only 2 bidders? And I think 5 are required for the city, and that the bidder you were about to award the contract is unqualified and doesn't have relevant experience, and in fact is a consortium of people and not even one contractor? And how you hire someone that doesn't have relevant experience for a project this complex? It seems very fishy to me, and I just wanted to know if this is all true and how this could be so, and if you still expecting this to be done in 5 years with an unqualified contractor, and how risky that can be if this isn't done correctly. So I would like to really hear a lot more about that. A question for Desiree is, you said there was environmental reporting is under review. I was just wondering, under review by who and exactly what that meant. I'm sorry if I haven't been following every single thing, but I just wondered what that meant and who's reviewing it and why now? Is it ongoing to see the effects of construction? And then back on Wendy's question with the FDR, it's like, how can you start a study now? It's kind of after the fact. How could that not be coordinated with the construction that's about to happen? Because isn't that all one project, and the walls and the way it all fits together? It seems kind of another backwards way of doing it that doesn't make logical sense to me. And I don't know who that question would be for.
All right, thank you. So we'll stack those questions before we go to the next person.
Sure.
But if you
So
can answer those.
I'm happy to start. I'm not sure about the requirement you mentioned about 5 bidders. We had 2 bidders. One was one firm, and the second one was a joint venture of 3 firms. The city, as required on all contracts, we have to review all bids that we receive. So we did deem the first one to be responsive and responsible. We did deem them to be qualified to do the work. Again, my general counsel would probably kill me if I said any more, but there is again an active lawsuit by the second lowest bidder challenging the first lowest bidder's bid. But the DDC went through the first lowest bidder's bid and found them to be responsive. That's what we're required to do by law. There's all sorts of other oversights we have that ensure that what we're doing is proper, and that is what occurred in this particular instance. I apologize, I don't remember the other construction-related questions.
So the other question was, is there still, I guess just, again, is there still an expectation to be done in 5 years with the contractors that we've selected?
So I think what we've stated in the past is that is certainly our expectation right now. We'll continue to monitor that, and once we have a contractor on board, we can really come back to you and talk more specifics on the schedule.
The other question was if they were qualified. Is it true that they did not fit the pre-qualifications, that they don't have relevant experience?
That's not my understanding of what transpired. Again, we deem them to be responsive, which means we found their
responsive is different than qualified.
It's all the same. I'm using the language that we use at DDC. That is the same term in our minds.
Billy, let's let.
All right.
Billy,
that's all I can really say. I mean, again, we have a process. We vet. This is not just ESCR. Of course, this is a unique project, but every project we have to go through the same process. And we found them to be responsive, which means we deem them capable of doing the work. So.
And then to speak to the second question, there is ongoing environmental monitoring as part of our commitment to the community. We are providing a quarterly report, which is a summary of the environmental monitoring. So that report, this is the first of the quarterly reports, which we will be issuing. That is what is currently under review, again, by the project team, by the agencies, before it is, just like any document, released to the public.
Yeah, Desiree, if I may. So we have monitors actively monitoring the noise in the PA2 area. They're in strategic locations based on a certified consultant who has done this work in the past. What we always are concerned about is handing information that doesn't make any sense. I'm a layperson. So in the past, what we've tried to do is provide a cover letter which explains exactly what you're looking at, so people don't, so that when they read it, they can understand what they're seeing. That is really what we're trying to do. And as Desiree mentioned, this is the first time we've collected this data. And so that's why we want to make sure we get it right. But there's no conspiracy here about.
Is somebody
There's active monitoring going on, during the work hours at PA2.
Is it for air quality as well, or just noise?
Desiree, I don't know if you know offhand.
Air quality and noise.
Thank
Yes,
you.
there's several.
Billy, what I'm also going to suggest is there is a CAG meeting that happens that you can watch on YouTube, which goes into a lot of the finer details, because this is supposed to be an update because we got to move forward, because we could talk about a lot of issues.
Okay.
And just,
There's
we
also-
can provide, if CB3
Yeah.
is interested, we could provide the locations of the air monitors. Like, there's a picture, we have a slide that shows where they're located. You can visit the project and we can talk about it if you'd like.
Okay.
And Desiree, I don't know if you can answer the FDR decking. I think any committee member can answer that, but if you want to answer, that would be helpful.
I cannot answer the FDR decking, so.
Sure. As part of in our resolution, as part of the ask from the council member, we asked them to take a look at decking over the FDR, not as part of this project and not obviously running concurrent to this project. It was a request just to take a look at that study. What Wendy was asking earlier is what is going on with that. We know there was a pause for COVID, and we're off that pause, and we're trying to figure out what's going on with that study. But that's more of a long-term thing, and I know there are some efforts to, it's been being discussed at the Lower Manhattan Coastal Resiliency project as to bringing down the FDR completely for long-term planning. That's my best answer, but hopefully it helps. And I'm sure Desiree can give you some links or some information about all of your questions. Christine, you're up next.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to just first of all thank Ben for coming to give this update and briefly talk about the Canarsie site. I think we're not in a position to turn down any site because construction is about to start, and we do want to continue our programs. And so we have agreed to this site, but it does not meet all of our needs. We currently have over an acre to do our programming, and Canarsie is about half of that size. Site is also will add 300 extra miles of truck traffic to our little logistic operation. So it will be very burdensome. And again, the real question is if this is supposed to be a temporary location, what is our path back to East River Park? And for that, I want to really thank Manelli, because I know that she has worked really hard on this issue. I know that she worked when we had this location, or we thought we had a solution for staying in Manhattan. When we had the Triborough Bridge location, I know that she really put a lot of effort into making that happen. Unfortunately, it fell through, but I don't think, I want to recognize that people in the mayor's office are really working hard on this issue. I think it is generous of Manelli to say that Parks is in communication with us, because they are not. That is, I think, part of the problem of really having an agency that is just putting up walls and not really communicating to their partners. And then I think from what I heard from Manelli, there's sort of like three outstanding issues. One of them is like to what extent composting is really a, shall we say, legit undertaking in New York parks. And I want to point out that just this week, the New York Bar Association, which are the brightest minds in law, have sent a 3-page letter to the mayor's office, or to the mayor, to point out that they don't feel that composting is a question of alienation. We are also working—
Christine, if you could wrap up.
Yeah, we are also working with state elected officials to create, the law is actually introduced to, from a state perspective, to say that composting is not alienation of parkland. So we're really working on that issue, because we know that Parks has used that as a reason why they are denying us to return. That this project is no longer funded. I also don't understand why that would be said. And then raising the project out of the flood zone. We talked to architects and they feel that the design that was developed and okayed by Parks and by the Public Design Commission could very easily be adapted to a raised level. It's really not a big deal, but the fact is that the compost yard is not in the construction drawings, and that's a big deal. And it needs.
Christine, let me pause there. I'm going to give him, because you're over your time, but I'm going to give him some chance to respond. No, I'm going to go back to you, but I want to give him a chance to respond because there's a lot of. I'm trying to extract some of the questions out of there. So I'm going to give throw this to the mayor's office to answer. Sure.
No, and apologies. I'll circle back with Parks. I was under the impression that they were in discussions and in continual coordination with you. So we'll make sure to remedy that. And then on the New York Bar letter, if you wouldn't mind, and I think you have my contact information, if you wouldn't mind forwarding that my way, I haven't seen it. Again, when I tell you that, and everyone at City Hall knows that if it's like composting, they typically loop me into the conversations. And I would be interested to see the stance, and I will definitely bring that into my conversations with City Law as well. And I think, and just on the funding piece, I mean, completely hear you about the previous effort that was done, and it was a lengthy design effort to put a vision for that site. And I think what I was referring to is not the fact that there wasn't a plan, is the fact that I don't believe that we currently have funding for it.
And I don't know if sanitation wants to answer or comment on the site in Canarsie, other than what has already been stated.
Sorry, I must have missed. Was there a particular question about the site in Canarsie?
Well, let me ask a question. I mean, she brought up some issues, 300 miles of extra truck traffic and amongst other things. But I just wanted to, you said about 100 sites were surveyed. A couple looked like they were promising, but they fell off. 1 in 100 or 1%, success rate. Christine has indicated that they haven't agreed to move there, but obviously the bigger concern is that this is a temporary site and doesn't become a permanent site. If you want to comment on that.
It's certainly a site where we're going to develop as if it were a long-term composting site. For as long as they need to stay there until there's a better option. So that's our perspective on it.
But again, I mean, and I say this personally, and I know, I mean, again, I've been working on this and trying to resolve this issue for 2 years, I believe at this point. So this has been extremely frustrating to me, if I'm being honest. And when I tell you, we have not given up on finding a Manhattan site to complement the Brooklyn site. And I still have not given up in the conversations with my principals and with our lawyers on the future of Lessig and East River Park. It's not over. And when I tell you that the conversations are happening and it's on my radar and it's something that I check in on a daily basis, I kid you not, that is what's happening at the moment. We have not given up on finding a Manhattan site, but as Ben mentioned, I mean, it's really, really tough to find real estate, especially this amount of area. I mean, I thought there were so many sites that we were hopeful about, and whether it was some, kind of logistical challenge with some infrastructure or some utility or something or another, or it was clearances, or it was that there wasn't, we couldn't drive up to it. Like, we've really ran the gamut. But again, I have not given up. I work on this issue on a daily basis. And again, I haven't given up hope.
All right. So Manelli, because you've actually given us some good information, and you're with the June, you're hoping for some answers in June. Are you able to come to the next Parks?
Yeah,
meeting?
and apologies because I also always try to at least at a minimum listen in. Is just there's a lot of meetings. There's a lot of meetings, but I will definitely make it a priority to join the June meeting, and hopeful that we'll have some developments on this.
Okay, and Ben, Ireland, I'm looking for commitment from your city agency.
I will drag Ben with me, and I will bring Parks with me too.
So okay. So I'm going to hold Parks to you.
You can put them all to me. Yes.
Okay. All right. So June should be an interesting month.
I will do some negotiating over chocolate at our desks. Yes.
All right. I appreciate it, Manelli. If there aren't any more questions, we're going to continue. Once again, we'll see you in June. Were there any other questions about the updates? Michael, do you see any questions? No? So thank you once again. Oh, go ahead, Michael.
No, I was just saying no.
All right. Thank you again for attending May. Yeah, it's May. The May meeting. I kind of like virtual in its own way, but you don't have to walk home at 9:30 at night. So appreciate it. So thank you once again.
Stay safe.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I believe what's left on the agenda is
district needs.
District needs. Oh, fun, fun, fun. Susan, are you on? I don't think she thought we'd finish this early.
She's on.
But I mean, like.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just couldn't unmute, I'm sorry. So what we thought we would be doing this month is just going through the district needs statement and seeing what needs to be changed, whether it's getting rid of something, adding. We have, the community board office has hired a graduate planner who actually worked with us on our needs last year. She is going to go through and update all the stats, and that will be using the citations currently, and that should be done before your next meeting. So if we could go through this month, see what seems reasonable to keep, what needs to be changed, and just kind of note that, and then figure out how to go forward from there.
Susan, can you email that to Michael so that he can screen share?
Do you have it? I'm on a different computer now. When I emailed it from the office.
Did you send it to me?
Yeah, I sent it to you earlier. Actually, I can say I could go into my email and find it and forward it.
I'll race you.
Well, I don't want to race you. I'll let you do it. I'll let you in. I emailed you two things. One was just the parks section, and the other, which might be nice to forward to the members, is just a brief statement of what the district needs is supposed to be doing.
Okay, just give me a second. Michael, you should get that in a minute or so.
Do you want me to open both or just the district needs?
Just the district needs.
Okay.
The other one I think would be good to maybe email to the committee later.
All right, I'll do that soon.
Just a reminder, Trevor, I don't think David Adams has computer access, so we won't see any of this.
Okay.
Well, just to let everyone know what this is, I just copied it from the website. On the website under district profile is the district needs from last year, and I just copied over the park section. So it's available on our website under district profile.
And keep in mind that we did spend some time on this document, as we do every year. We don't need to make wholesale changes. I think we did a pretty good job last year.
I agree. I think,
let's give ourselves some credit. I think all the same members, actually, because we're all going to look at this and say, well, who wrote this and who said that when it was us? So how do you want, what do you think the best, if you want to look this over line by line, and we can all read?
I was going to.
Sure, go ahead, Susan.
I was going to say by section. I mean, I think if you look at the bullet points, I don't know if you have to read everything. I think it's, and some of this, like the first three bullet points, have been the same for I don't know how many years, because they're always true.
And Trevor, you have a couple of hands up, but I just want to confirm, Susan, what you said earlier is that we don't really need to concentrate on the statistics and numbers in here because somebody else is going to do that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, to ease this, Kate, go ahead. I'm going to let you do this.
I just wanted to remind folks that the paragraph before Parks and Recreation talks about homelessness in parks. So that is our, although it's under homelessness in subways, maybe we want it to move, but I just wanted to let folks know that.
Thank you.
And I see a hand up, and I don't know what, I think it's Fredo.
I believe it's David Adams. I'm not 100% sure though. He might have been on. Adams?
Right, let's continue.
Yeah, it's David Adams. He can see on the computer now. He just put it in the chat box.
Okay.
Okay, was there a question to answer?
No, I think he was just telling us that he can see it.
Oh, okay. So I just say in the first bullet points, I think only the last one was new last year. Which I would assume needs to stay there.
Yes.
So I think what we're saying is the first section probably just doesn't need any change, except for to have the statistics checked. And I think even those will not change. Parks buildings, I think we worked a lot on last year to try and, tweak it to be as good as possible. I think Kay worked on the first bullet point a lot, which is, so.
True, all still true.
Yeah, and the spacing is off just because of the copy and paste job. So just a heads up, nobody needs to comment on that. That will be fixed.
Thank you. So did we skip anything? Are we still in the park? Oh, okay. So the first one, I think we just said, doesn't need any changes. I suspect, well, other than, except for, look, go ahead.
Just want to pause 1 second. Ryan, I did send you this document since we're not, you don't have an active document to edit. So just feel free to if there are any edits to insert.
Okay, yeah, I just.
Well, Kay had one, but it's easier to just edit the document.
Are we actually editing now or just noting what needs to be changed?
Just noting, sorry.
Okay.
You're right, Susan, just noting.
And I have a paper document. I mean, it's helpful if more than one of us do it. I also have a paper document in front of me that I can mark. So under the other bullet points, does the committee want to change any of those regarding the parks buildings?
As long as this is all still true and relevant, I don't have any changes.
I think, as far as I know, I think they're all,
No changes.
the Baruch, you know, I think there is an RFP. We will hear about that in a couple of months, but there's nothing more we know about the RFP. I think, I'm trying to think, I think it was like a skate facility. But, you know, we might want to just change it to completely closed, something about, you know, get an update. I think maybe we should get an update on the status of the RFP.
Recreational use.
It's all still true. You might want to add just a bullet point that the recreational sports field, the lack of recreational sports fields is exacerbated by the closing of East River Park.
Okay. For the rat reduction, most in need, is this only going by stats?
So the rat reduction, program was put on pause because of the pandemic. It's just starting, I think, this month. We have seen a great increase in rats in CB3. I don't have specifics on Just Gardens, but they are just starting the program again and will extend, I think it was a 5-year program. They're going to extend it to make up for the pause in the parks. And I am asking DOH for an update in rat information, but I don't think we're going to get much because they're just starting now to do the indexing, and I think it'll take months. But I'll see if I can get some kind of information from them.
Right. It's the one I'm asking because, I mean, I would obviously like to add a park to this list, and it's the one next to sanitation, which has been completely run over.
Oh,
by
okay.
rats.
So what is the new one you want to add?
Pier 35.
Okay.
You have a hand up from Carlin, Trevor.
Carlin?
People are, yeah, I think they're still muted.
Yeah.
He's still muted.
Carlin, you have your hand up, but we can't hear you.
He's unmuted now.
Carl, I'm gonna go to Kay. If you want to start to type it in the chat, because we can't hear you. Kay, and if he gets back on, you can.
Yeah, I'll pause. I wondered, Susan, is there any plan or mitigation for when East River Park goes under construction?
You mean as far as rats?
Yeah, as far as rats. What happens as they start to leave? And also I would just say that SDR Park, because of the NTA fan plant, is now it's just a constant rat explosion. So we're already listed here though. But I am curious about East River Park. Is there a mitigation plan there?
There's required for any type of any construction. It is required to have a plan. We can ask to see it.
Yeah, I think we want to, because remember the MTA didn't.
Yeah, and we made them, well, they didn't know, you know, that was because they were state people. And if you remember, they didn't know that they had to do it. I'm hoping since this is a city situation that they know what they have to do. But you might want to actually ask for that as part of a report of your update for next month.
Trevor, Carlin in the chat said to add Columbus Park to the rodent infestation problem.
Okay.
Okay. Maintenance. For wireless access, I assume that stays the same.
Yeah, we don't seem to have any plans for any improvement.
Maintenance.
Well, you know, the one thing I want to remind everyone that makes this much more difficult is that this is for a year from July. So this is talking about needs for starting the fiscal year in July 2022. So maintenance right now is certainly a very big issue. Trying to predict this for a year from now based on everything falling apart in COVID is even more difficult. So, I don't see any downside in keeping what you have here. But I also don't know what should be added. It's really hard during COVID, because of COVID to add to that.
I think we leave it as is. We're always going to want maintenance, and if we get any changes before we turn this in, we edit. But I think we just leave it the way it is.
Sure.
Can I ask if there are other parks? What I'm discovering in SDR is that the Bruckner boxes, which should be used to supply water for gardens, are non-existent in part of the parks. Does anybody else have that issue? And how do we think about that? Because that's more infrastructure than it is maintenance.
Yeah, I can tell you more about this offline, but we had them built in and designed into the dog run, because we never had water access at Corlears at all until the dog run got renovated. They put 2 Bruckner boxes in the dog run for us.
Well, I wonder if, with other parks as well, if that's an issue in the older parks, because we have some, and then we have places where there's none, and you can't really have gardens without them. So is there a spot for that? Do we know of other parks? Carlin, maybe you know about Columbus. But anyway, the bigger parks, the older parks that haven't been renovated in places, I think that's where mostly there is no on-site watering. I can ask Jamal when I see him, but.
All right, so let's see if we can get an update on where they are.
And then we could have
Go ahead,
list.
Susan. Yeah, that'd be useful.
So that might be, if you could gather that, a list of parks with gardens that will need the water.
I assume that would be a Steve Simon question, wouldn't it?
Probably. I do know that, when 2 years ago, when participatory budgeting first happened, and I worked on it with Carlina's office, one of the items was to make the community gardens more equitable by making sure they all had the same amenities. And one of those amenities were Bruckner boxes.
Mm-hmm. And the gardens got, right before COVID, got a huge amount of money. So, I don't know on that specific thing, but I would assume they were able to buy almost anything they needed. It was one of those city council one-shots where people were having problems spending it all.
There's a comment in the chat from David Adams. I'm not sure I fully understand it, but he's asking if we can add a caveat about maintenance pending the pandemic recovery.
This is for July 2022. So I don't know that we're not going to want maintenance a year from now.
Yeah, we'll see where we are when we get to the point where this has to be finalized. But
you have a hand up from Yaron also, Trevor.
Yeah, Yaron, go ahead.
Hey everyone. I was thinking about the street. We got the update from the tree planting task force today, and like down the line, like those new trees and bioswales or whatever they'll end up adding. They need extra attention in the first couple of years. So I don't know if this is the right spot for it, or if there's somewhere we may want to mention that, what may be a new development then. but maybe there's somewhere if that works in this document.
What I would suggest, it sounds to me like what we need is funding that is dedicated to the maintenance. And maybe that would be a good funding question to ask Parks for our budget consults.
Yeah, funding. And Yaron, if I hear what you're saying, if you could provide some language that we can insert here, because with the addition of the bioswales, rain gardens, trees, this might need to be edited just a bit. So if you can think of some language and provide it, that would be helpful.
Yeah, we do mention street trees in the opening here. I've highlighted it, but I think maybe your own, if you can come up with like a fourth bullet that's specifically about street trees.
Right, and all of the trees that are coming in the bioswales, because hopefully we're going to get a ton of or quite a few bioswales or rain gardens.
Yeah, sure.
Last time they died because, you know, the million trees died because they weren't watered or waterable.
Is this a fourth bullet under maintenance you're talking about?
Correct.
Yeah.
You want to try and draft it right now, or should I get back to you?
No, just get back. I mean, you can
Okay,
start
sure.
it, but get back. We're just looking at this overall. Community gardens.
But I would also suggest that as a budget question.
Yeah, I have it as a budget. Funding for maintenance of the street trees, bioswales. Other than the so-called 2-year commitment they have from the contractor.
Oh, there's a whole section on on trees and bioswales coming up.
Oh, you hit it from us, Michael. So if you're wrong, you can take a look at the next one, but that still may be a maintenance system. We'll see if it's covered, but anything for community gardens. Hearing nothing, you want to scroll up a little bit more? Wow, that's all we have. I thought it was a whole big paragraph you were hiding.
So did I.
The good news is it's happening, right?
Yeah, the good news is happening. We still want them. So
could we just go back to that section under all gardens under New York City Parks jurisdiction? I don't know if, if these are things that they still need because of the one shot. I don't know if these are things that still need. I'm wondering if maybe someone wants to reach out to Charles at Lungs and, ask him about that.
I can do that because we're talking to him anyway for one of the.
Yeah, if you could read that section to him and see if it's still true or whether it needs to be changed.
What about the Green Street Triangle, Trevor?
that wouldn't be in this particular document because we're talking about the district.
I don't see it.
It's not a general district need. I think we always had it under budget requests, right?
Yes, so it will be in the next document that we work on when we talk about priorities, but right now we're talking about overall district needs.
So this top paragraph is waterfront. The heading is on the page above.
The PEP officer to be hired to patrol community gardens. That's a far-reaching. Is that something that people still want to see? To be honest, I think that should fall probably much more under the precincts.
Yep.
You're agreeing. So maybe we should change that to having precincts patrol, or maintain somehow to include the gardens on their patrol. I know this has come up with the police a lot in the last 2 years, particularly because of drugs and people using the gardens for drugs.
So you did give some promising language about the precincts adding community gardens as a priority for their patrols.
Okay, so I'll put that in.
This will need to be updated, although it is still true. And I think there's still some confusion about Pier 42 because the deck portion is temporary. It is not a permanent park, and it's not part of the overall plan. It's a temporary use of space to replace some of the amenities that were lost in East River.
So you're noting that paragraph is needing rewriting.
Yes, it needs rewriting.
Are you going to rewrite it?
I'll have some comments on it, and folks can edit or criticize.
Yay! Write something just so we can criticize it.
Exactly. The issue about 35 is still true. There's no bathrooms, except for the planning beds for number 1s and 2s, unfortunately. Composting.
I think Kay should rewrite this paragraph.
I can make this paragraph so long.
Yes, yeah, that's
No.
okay. You're limited to that space that you see. You can only rearrange words.
I don't think it needs to change much.
It's fine. I think it's succinct and it says exactly what we need.
Nobody's going to listen, but it's good to say.
Next month they will.
We shall see.
You might want
Let's
to
promise
change
this.
the part about the Lower East Side Ecology Center and add something about the importance of keeping it in the park.
Okay.
Yeah. Good point.
And then
Libraries.
the library always rewrites their section.
Okay.
That's it.
That's the end?
Yeah.
What time is it?
8:30.
Wow.
Hey, shut up. We haven't adjourned yet.
No.
Say something so we can criticize it, please.
I have a story for you, Kay, but
Oh no.
It's a very quick story. Our brand new fire hydrants in the dog run that are supposed to spray water for the dogs
Oh yeah.
already broke because apparently the mineral heavy New York City water clogged the valves. So that
I got a story for you.
Okay.
So along the East River Esplanade, sprinklers, water irrigation systems, faucets were installed to help water the plants instead of folks having to bring buckets of water. They're only a year old. None of them work. None of them.
We have a new paragraph. I just want to say that in near Stanton Building in my park, the Parks Department fenced off the some of the benches so the people couldn't sit there, and the people get in and they sit there, but they're inside a fence. It's the bizarre thing.
Feeling of protection. On that note,
motion to
we're
adjourn.
going to take attendance by doing a vote to adjourn and also take attendance for the end of the meeting. Ryan, you have the floor.
All right, hold on. Let me just find my place.
Sure.
Trevor Holland,
Yes.
Kay Webster,
Yes.
Ryan Gillum, yes. David Adams.
He's on still. David, just type yes into the chat.
Okay. Your own Altman,
Yes.
Carlin Chan,
Yes.
Valentina Jones,
Yes.
Michael Marino,
Yes,
Robin Chattel,
she's not on.
Josephine Velez,
Yes.
Troy Velez.
He's not on.
That's it.
Well, thanks everyone and have a good night. It's nice to end in 2 hours.
Good night,
night.
everybody.
Thanks, Trevor. Good job chairing.
Good night. Thank you.